Welcome to the SJ Child Show, where a little bit of knowledge can turn fear into understanding. Enjoy the show. Hi, welcome to the SJ Child Show. Today I am with Gabrielle, and is it Crichlow? Is that how I pronounce that?
Yes, Crichlow.
Oh, good. It's so nice to have you here today. Thanks for joining me and being patient with rescheduling timing. And hope I've offered back the same, and we're good now. And yeah, I really had a nice time on your show, and it's great that. But a little one-sided. You got to know me. Now I'm excited to return the favor and get to know you.
Yeah. We're just adjusting my screen here. But we're what's the word? Guest swapping.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's so nice too because we both know the value in that, and then sharing each other's stories and supporting one another. And I'm always a big fan of you rise by lifting others. So it's exciting to have you here today, and I know my audience will like the topics and the entrepreneurship we're going to talk about, and most importantly, the services and company, I guess, if you want to call it, that you own. And I'm looking forward to get to know more about it. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you here.
Well, I am an entrepreneur. I have my own tutoring company called Step Ahead Tutoring Services. What brought me here is I want to share this as a resource for parents, right? That they don't have to struggle alone. Or they don't have to struggle at all, I should say. Um, I got into the tutoring field. I was a private tutor since 2005. I just became an official business owner in 2013.
Nice.
But just what got me into the field is the ability to connect with students in a personal light. Um, it's it's something that I just discovered. I knew I was the smart kid, right, in school, and an opportunity came up for me to help some other students with their homework and with understanding concepts and breaking it down. So I just thought to myself, like, okay, I'm a smart kid, I think I could do it. And I jumped into it and I realized that one, I could do it, and two, it was an opportunity to challenge myself because it's one thing to know something, it's another thing to explain it to somebody else. And so um being able to take a major concept and to break it down and to try to explain it in 20 different ways in a way that the student will understand it, and also assessing the student themselves and their ability to comprehend, and you're doing all that in a short amount of time. And so it's like figuring out, do they know the foundational skills, and do they know this, and then you realize they're lacking other things because with particularly for math, the skills build on top of each other. um so if you're in calculus, I mean, I don't personally tutor calculus, but it's a little out of my reach, but I have tutors under me who do. You know, if you're in calculus, great, but if you don't know your basic times tables, you're gonna be lost, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like if you don't know how to multiply um without a calculator, I would say that you're gonna be lost. And so you need the foundational skills. And so that's one of the things that I emphasize in my tutoring is the knowledge of foundational skills. I mean, as well as whatever they're doing at the time, but I really try to um, make sure that the students get the foundation because, it's like the common metaphor, right? If you don't have a foundation, your house falls apart, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so you got to have the thing at the bottom, right? So that's one of the things that, and I guess it gives me insight into the type of students that I tend to see. But yeah, that's one of the things that I build my company on is, do you know the basics? Do you know the foundation? It's one thing to know what you're doing now, and it's another thing to, not get the foundation in order to get there. So that's one of the things that I've built my company on is getting your foundation, getting your beginning so you can get to the middle and the end, right? And another thing that I've built my company on is it's not just grades, it's self-esteem, right? So there's a connection between how you do in school and how you feel about yourself. So that's another thing that I've also built my company on is, if you get this one thing, then you fix the other thing by consequence. So it's like another common metaphor is like the dominoes, right? You knock one domino and the rest fall down, right? So it's, you fix how they do in school, you fix the academics, you address that, and you give them positive reinforcement. You can do this, keep going. You got this. Hey, you made a mistake. Let's fix it again. And mistakes can be fixed. Let's get some practice in. Let's drill it. Let's do some drills. And the more you encourage, the more reinforcement. And even when the negative self-talk comes out, I'm silly, I'm stupid, I make stupid mistakes, I'm horrible. No, you're not. You're struggling. You're figuring things out. This can be fixed. Let's just do it over. Let's find another way to do it, and showing them that it's learning is not linear, right? It's
Yeah.
all over the place. So there's more than one way to see something. And, my job as a tutor as what I encourage my other tutors to do is to try to find multiple ways to teach the same thing. So all that to say is I'm to answer your question, I think I went all over the place, but I'm here because I want your parents to know and your audience to know that my services are available. And if, your child is struggling in school for whatever reason, maybe they're uh, you know, missing homework, maybe they took a lot of days off of school and now they have to catch up. Maybe they lack focus. And I think your audience particularly is children with learning disabilities, I believe. So if your child has a learning disability, well, we don't do all learning, we don't address all learning disabilities at this time, um, but it is something that we do work with. So the common ones we tend to see are ADHD. Um, and IEPs 504. So we do work with students with disabilities, but on just
Right.
select ones at this time. But all I have to say is this: if for whatever reason, if your child is falling behind the school system, and unfortunately, as 17 and under, school is part of the child's identity, right? And if you're not doing well in school, then fortunately, the idea is you're not really doing well in life. And so we're going in and we're changing that. And I'm just like, we just live in this big system and yeah. So it's kind of funny how just the concept of school consumes a child's life until they're 18. So it's kind of interesting that we live in this big system of rules. But all that to say is to we help your child navigate this part of life and just knowing that once you conquer school, you can conquer anything, right? So that's what I
Very
bring to your
true.
audience today, and
Oh,
my services provide that. And I know, parents are usually like, they try to do it themselves first, and sometimes it doesn't always work. Sometimes you need an outside party. You need somebody different, because it's how the child perceives you as the parent. So if the child just sees you, the parent, right, and you're trying to help them with school, and they're not really going to see you as the teacher, that they'll just see you as your mom, right? And even the parent themselves, if the child makes them, like, if you're used to yelling at your kids, and then if they don't clean their room, and then now you're helping them with their homework, and they make a mistake on the homework, and now you're yelling at them because they're getting it wrong. It's like, well, and the child's not going to respond. So that's commonly, when parents reach out to
mm.
me, they say, oh, they just need somebody else to tell them the exact same thing.
Yeah,
So,
isn't that the truth? I need
yeah,
to
so
pause us for 1 second.
yeah, yeah,
It's really important that you take time to hear your kids, especially when they need help. If you're a parent out there, if you're an educator, help, getting your students help outside of the classroom is also so important, because we went through lots of years where our student was struggling and we didn't know. And when we had to bring her home, we found out very quickly that you needed some help, and the tutoring was just a lifesaver. And it's so necessary that what you're doing, getting in there and giving those kids that one-on-one, which also I think is important for their self-esteem and feeling like I mean, I think at first, from my experience with our child, they're a little embarrassed or a little bit ashamed or afraid that they are behind. But once you help them understand, and like you said, show them like you can fix things, we can make things, adjust things, we can go back and figure out why we don't understand things, and try to learn new ways. And a lot of that also comes with understanding their learning style. Isn't that the case? So how do you guys kind of access is, do you have an assessment or something, or how do you kind of, or base it on what parents say, as far as like if a child is more of a visual learner rather than hands-on learner and such?
yeah. So, we don't do formal assessments. It's more of, I do kind of leave it up to the tutor, but I generally speaking, we it's more like direct observations.
Yeah.
So in terms of, well, okay, I'll say it. It's observation. It's also parental reports. It's using a variety of outside sources to assess that. So nothing formal right now, but and I think once you work with a child, work with a student, I should say, you get a sense. It's a vibe that you pick up. I believe that we feed off of each other. Um,
Yeah.
I believe in like spiritual connections, and so I believe that we feed off of each other. So you get a vibe of the student in a way. So yeah, you want to hear what the parent says, and if you're lucky enough to talk to the teacher, that's good too, or read the report cards, that's good too, if you can get all
Yeah.
that um, collateral information. But it's more like observation. So we go in with an expectation of, and we follow the Common Core over here in New York, um, that you're supposed to know certain skills in a certain grade. So if like, which like for example, like fourth grade, I know math is just easier for me to explain, but like fourth grade math, you should know how to multiply up to 3 digits, I believe.
Mm.
I believe. Up to 3 digits. I think fifth grade, you should be able to multiply up to 4 digits, right? So we check, so we see, do they know how to multiply? Do they have that basic skill?
Yeah.
And then okay, do they know how to go up to 2 digits, right? And then do they know how to go up to 3 digits? So it's one thing at a time. So it's a lot of factors. It's pretty much to answer your question. So nothing formal, but it's really just like we hear what the parent says. If we're lucky, which I strongly encourage all parents, is to have all that collateral info. So show the tutors the report cards, see if you can connect the tutor with the teacher. And so that's one thing I strongly encourage, to get all that background information. Um, but we also use a lot of, like I said, observation. So are you meeting are you on reading level for your grade? Are your math skills on grade level? Are you below grade level? Are you above grade level? Um, so those are the things that we look for. And in terms of what types of learners they are, again, we like to get the outside reports. So again, strongly encourage, make sure parents talk to your tutors. Um, but
Yeah.
but again, that's another thing that we pick up. So it's things like so like some students learn better by by just like hearing it. So
Mm-hmm.
like I'm just gonna tell you what to do and you understand. Well, not tell you what to do, explain it to you with a lot of talking. Other students, for example, like ADHD students, the ones that I've worked with, they tend to be visual learners, or tactile learners. They got to move with their hands. So I mean, and the challenge is, okay, how do I explain this using like marbles, or a lot of the time is um online. So it's okay, how do I get you to write on the screen? So things like that, as opposed to, let me write it out for you and you read it to me. Maybe let's find a way for you to write on the screen. Let's use your mouse and use your fingers and things like that. Um, so to answer your question, I
Mm-hmm.
tend to ramble. It's it's reporting from parents, reporting from teachers. If we can see the report cards, great. We can see the IEPs, which is very helpful, and just being in the moment with the
Yeah.
student and just feeding off of the vibe and trying different things and just observing the student and getting to know them.
How long is the process? Is there a set schedule or like an 8 week, 12 week kind of thing, or is it just individualized to each student?
It's
Oh,
individualized.
that's great.
So I don't like to put time on things.
Hmm.
So it is individualized. So however long it takes.
Their goals, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, usually the tutor figures it out, and I would say in the first few weeks,
Hmm.
I would say in the first few sessions, we start figuring things out. And it also depends on how open the parent is. Sometimes the parents unfortunately don't disclose everything, and we we find out
Right?
through observation, like, okay, they didn't, the child has a cognitive, um what's the word, um
Impairment, maybe.
yeah, cognitive impairment, and the parent doesn't know, or maybe they're ashamed, or
Yeah.
they they're just like, oh, there's nothing wrong with them, right? But then, no, no, we see it. So
Yeah. And that's tough for parents, but it's tough on educators and tutors too, because what I think it's so sad, and some parents don't understand, and especially ones early in the process, is that it is like a freedom. It's like an independent card. It's like you can get whatever you need with this understanding of whatever might be going on. It's not like I would rather have my child, in my case, be, labeled autistic rather than a weirdo out in public, or naughty because he doesn't listen. And there's just so many other ways we can provide support for our kids. And by being afraid of them not fitting into society, we're also disempowering them and ourselves, and not, standing up to help them just become better students. And yeah, that's tricky.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's with parents, they have to be honest about their children. So, and I mean, I tend to see it with families of color, minority families as well, but it's in general, um, parents need to be honest about their children, and that they may have some difficulties learning. And again, school, unfortunately, is a part of the kid's life. It's a big system of rules that's governing kids. We do have to navigate that part of life. But
Yeah,
um, it's be honest about your kids. If
I love that.
if if you notice something a little off, right? Get that checked out, get that evaluated. Um, and even, I mean, you see it in behavioral issues, like again, I think you probably will see it more with maybe someone who autistic or with ADHD. Like, they may have these outbursts or tantrums, right? That's the only way they can express their frustration is through
Mhm.
tantrums, right? And don't be so quick to label them as like, oh, you're undisciplined, bad behavior, they're just awful and they don't listen. That could just be them acting out because something deeper is going on. So
Yeah.
before you write them off as, they're a rule breaker, and they keep having tantrums and things like that, it's okay. They might check to see if there's something deeper going on, and maybe they're struggling to understand because they don't understand, right? Or
Yeah.
they and just it's don't look at kids as stupid, or you got to watch what you say around your kids, parents. they
Yes.
pick up they pick up on that. um you know don't use words like stupid, idiot, like, why can't you just figure it out? They pick
Mhm.
up on that, right? So
Yeah.
um there's a lot, but all that to say is, be honest about your children. If, for lack of a better phrase, if they seem off, have that looked at, have that evaluated, talk to a school counselor. It's preferred if you talk to a your pediatrician, even more preferred if you go to a neuropsychologist. But yeah, have that looked at, and if they seem off, talk to your pediatrician
Yeah.
about that, and maybe a neuropsychologist is more preferred. And yeah, and don't look at tantrums and bad behavior as, oh, they're troublesome. Don't be so quick to write them off as horrible. They may be acting out because there's something, again, deeper going on.
Yeah.
So
That's really tricky too.
yeah.
Communication is, even for adults. I mean, how many adults do you know in this day and age who don't communicate correctly, or even, positively, or in a meaningful manner? And it's impossible for us to expect children to have communication styles that work, since we have to be the ones to model them and be that example of how to have some conflict resolution ideas, or how to ask for help. I think that's probably a big thing that you see is that kids generally tend to like withdraw and then maybe not ask for help as much as they need.
Yeah, and that's, that's a sense of pride thing as well. So it's twofold with that. It's in terms of kids being confident enough to ask for help. I think that goes into the self-esteem, that goes into mental health and depression. And because school is such a part of their identity, and then if they're failing at school, then they feel like failures themselves. And so they're embarrassed to talk to parents about it. But then it's also on the parent side, and that are you receptive to that information?
Mhm.
Are you, can a child comfortably come to you and say, I'm struggling, I need help? And if they feel afraid to talk to you, then how are you presenting yourself to the child? So that might be controversial what I just said, but it's got to be said. If the child does not feel confident to talk to you, then you need to look at yourself as a parent and say, why does my child feel afraid to talk to me?
Yeah.
So, and don't be so dismissive about it and say, well, they should be able to come to me. I'm here. Why don't you? Sorry, it's a reflective of my own upbringing, but it's, you gotta look at yourself and say, why is my child afraid to talk to me?
Mm,
Like if they
so
are
true.
struggling in school, or can they comfortably say, I'm struggling in school,
Yeah.
and are you, and unfortunately, some parents put a lot of pressure on their kids and say, you got to get that 100, you got to get that A. But if they fall a little below that, some parents are like, what's wrong with you?
Shame. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that shame, and yeah,
Yeah.
so
Agreed.
it,
Not
there's a lot.
good.
So I think it's, if your child doesn't tell you that something's wrong, you know, do they have the space to tell you that something
Mhm.
is wrong? And being that child myself, I've been afraid to tell my parents something. So it's like, is your child comfortable in talking to you about these things?
Yeah.
And how do you, as a parent, view failure?
Mm.
How do you perceive failure? How do you conceptualize failure? And when you fall short below reaching a goal, how do you as a parent take that in, right? If
Mhm.
you have these goals for your child and they fall below that, what is your reaction? How do you
Yeah.
perceive that? And that's something parents should look inside themselves and figure out about themselves. And that might be a sign of their own childhood and their own
Yeah.
trauma.
Not the truth.
So you may have to look at yourself,
Yeah.
but yeah, so you fall short of your goals, which happens, what is your reaction? How do
Mhm.
you respond to that? Your child comes home with a 55, what is your response to that? What's your, so it's something that parents should be aware of, and they should ask the question, do create space for the child to feel comfortable in discussing failure and discussing falling short of goals and not putting so much pressure on reaching the goal. Yes, you want them to reach a goal. I'll make that clear. Let's make that clear. But are you putting a lot of pressure on them?
Yeah.
Like, oh, they have a 85 and, but it's not a 95,
Yeah.
so I've
Yeah.
gotten that too. So,
It's so
um,
common. Yeah.
it's, yeah. So it's in terms of asking for help, I think children respond to their environments. And if they don't have the space And if they don't feel comfortable in asking for help because they don't feel that they can just disclose that without feeling threatened,
Yeah.
there's going to be a problem. And then you're going to have the parent who's like, well, my kid doesn't talk to me. Well, why is that? You know, you
Right.
need to ask yourself, why does my kid not want to talk to me?
Yeah.
What environment am I creating? What did I do, for my kid to feel that way? So there has to be some self-exploration with that. But also with parents and just being accepting the fact that sometimes you fall short of being a parent, and that's okay. You don't have to, you may not be an excellent parent. You might be struggling, like my kid's not doing well and I don't know what to do. And it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
And
And ask for
so,
help
and
yourself.
ask for help.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
So true.
So
It's where you start.
there's no shame. And
Yeah.
if you need help, lean on your community, reach out to your peers, and
Yeah.
reach out to a tutoring company.
Perfect place to be at this moment in time.
Absolutely.
Where, and
There's
you're
no
in New
shame.
York. Do you just do local or are you online? Tell us about those kind of services.
Yes. So in terms of so we do in person and virtual. So the in person is local to our area, which is New York City and Long Island, but don't fret, because we also do virtual services across the United States. Um, and
Awesome.
I would love to try Canada. So if someone happens to be in
Hey,
Canada, hit
great.
me up. I love to explore, global tutoring, but yeah, but definitely across the US. So I think one beauty of the pandemic, because I was forced to be virtual,
Yeah.
but now that we're in this field and we flourish in this field, it's like, okay, I could definitely see virtual tutoring. I actually like it.
Yeah.
It has its place. So, in terms of our specific services, we do one-on-one tutoring, we do test prep, college counseling, editing, and proofreading.
Hmm.
So we have a variety of workshops as well. So,
And tell us
so
where to find you. Where is your website?
yeah. So my website, or our website, I should say, is www.a Step Ahead Tutoring Services, all one word. You can also find us on social media. So we're on most of the platforms. So just put in A Step Ahead Tutoring Services and we will pop up. You look for the logo of the pencil with the gray and black tip at the bottom. That is us. So we are on most of these social media platforms. So you can find us Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, aka X, and Eventbrite as well. So make sure you
And
follow us.
YouTube. Got a YouTube channel
YouTube.
too.
Oh my God, how did I forget?
I'm
I'm
a
so sorry.
subscriber,
I'm
so you
sorry. And YouTube,
know.
thank you. Definitely YouTube. Follow us on all that as well. Just A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. We will pop up, and we also, have a podcast which you were a guest on, so you could find us on any of your podcast platforms. Our podcast is called Hot Topics, so we cover a lot of hot button topics in the educational field, as well as mental health and social services and all that good stuff. So you can listen to our podcast Hot Topics on your favorite platform, whether it's Spotify or Apple or Good Pods. You could also find us through there as well.
Perfect. And, while you're there, of course, go check out my episode with Gabrielle. And also, A Step Ahead Tutoring, please go follow them on all their pages, go support them, and go check out Hot Topics podcast so that you can listen there and, stay up to date with all of the information. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I look forward to staying in touch so that we can, find out if anything else changes or comes in the future. And that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Please keep in touch. I think you're coming back on again, right?
I think so, in a week or two, maybe. Yeah, talk about my own personal journey rather than my children's this time. So thank you so, so much. I look forward to chatting with you then.
Thank you.